and to listen to wonderful program coming to you. And please don't forget to subscribe or give us thumbs up. Thank you for watching. Welcome, Dr. Tanya Atambo. Our guest today is none other than Dr. Tanya Atambo from Texas. Dr. Tanya Atambo is currently a senior engineer at Pipeline Project Management in the city of Dallas, Texas. Dr. Atambo graduated recently with a degree in engineering from the University of Texas. And he also holds two master's degrees, one master's degree in environmental engineering from Lehman University, Texas, and a master's in agricultural engineering from Michigan University, Kenya, and a bachelor's in agricultural engineering, University of Nairobi. Welcome, Dr. Atambo.
Thank you, Dr. Mandy, for that good introduction.
Yeah, now we want to congratulate you first for your recent graduation with your PhD. I know it's a great sacrifice that you have come this far, which is very good that you have really put an effort. Now, tell us more about your career as an engineer and how you became an engineer.
Thank you again, Dr. Omandi. My name is Dr. Dan Atambo. I'm an engineer by profession. Like he said, I went with two masters, one from Egerton University on agricultural engineering, and another one from Lamar University in Beaumont, Texas, on environmental engineering. My bachelor's was agricultural engineering from the University of Nairobi. And of course, now I've got a PhD in civil engineering from the University of Texas at Harrington. So my career started, I think for now, I will start from maybe the University of Nairobi. Maybe later on I can tell you my story from down there, from the village level. But for now, let me start from the University of Nairobi. I went to the University of Nairobi in 1990 and registered in agricultural engineering. And agricultural engineering has basically 4 branches at the end of the day when you graduate. The first 3 years, you do all foundation engineering courses. And of course, agricultural engineering is an application of engineering in agriculture. And it has got about 4 branches, one being irrigation and drainage, another one being soil and water conservation, number 3, farm power and the machinery, and then also agricultural structures, the buildings you see, the structures you see in agricultural setup. So I ended up specializing in irrigation and drainage, and that's where I went to work after graduating in 1996. So I was the first job I did, I worked as a site engineer with a company called Opera Engineers in Naivasha, Kenya.
Okay. And
my job was to work to supervise the construction of silencers. These are kind of buildings, more or less like empty spaces. They are reinforced with concrete. When they are generating geothermal, they use steam. So you have to test the steam in terms of the pressure and all those parameters. So you have to use these silencers. So I was a site engineer in the construction of those silencers at the geothermal in Naivasha. So I worked there for a year and decided to leave the private sector and go to public service. And I got hired with the Ministry of Agriculture. And later on, the functions I was performing, they were transferred to the Ministry of Water and Irrigation, and was posted in Rift Valley. Now it's a region, Rift Valley province in Nakuru, Kenya. That's where I worked for about 4 years. Then there was a need of an experienced engineer in Turkana district. That time they were calling it a district.
Okay.
Now it's a county. So that time the government of Kenya didn't have much money for development. If you remember in the 90s or 2000s,
Yeah.
during the Moi era. So, but there were agencies like USAID, World Vision, Catholic Diocese. They were supporting the communities there to improve on food security. And in that area, there is no water or rain. You only get water from the rivers and the wells, and that's what I went to help them to come up to solve their food security problems through irrigation and drainage. And the irrigation in this case meaning applying water to crops. You apply the water from the river or from wells and convey it. You can use open channels called canals, or you use a pipe system and deliver it to the villages. So I used to work with communities in Turkana. And of course, before I went there, I also worked with so many other communities in counties like Bomet County, Kajiado County, Narok, Nakuru, Baringo, and all those counties. So basically, I worked as an irrigation engineer in Kenya, and now later on I got a green card and came to the US.
Okay.
And I found myself in Minnesota in 2007, and there I was told the best job you can do there is to be a nurse aide. Especially if you have a family, you need a job, and that's the best job you can do to provide to your family. So, but then more or less like I was disappointed in a way, because now it looks like all the years invested in engineering are going to go to the drain.
Okay.
But by God's grace, I was able to figure out quickly what I need to do, and I decided to pursue another master's degree. So now in Minnesota, I lived there for 1.5 years, working as a nurse aide. And before I left Minnesota to come to Texas, I went to the University of Minnesota, UFM, and I wanted to do a master's in water resources engineering. That's under civil engineering. But the chair of the department told me, for us to admit you, we would like you to do non-degree classes. Before the teachers like you or the professors like you to admit you. So then I thought, non-degree classes, that's a waste of money and of course time. So then I had to change my mind and say, okay, let me go to agricultural engineering department. I guess they call it biosystems and maybe environmental engineering, something like that. So when I went to this professor in UFM, he assured me an admission to graduate school. While I was waiting for this admission, I got a friend in Texas who was doing a PhD in a university called Lamar. And this friend said, hey, what are you doing? I said, I'm waiting for this admission from UFM. He said, my university is also good if you want to come here. And they told me, like, if you apply for environmental engineering, you are not going to do a lot of prerequisites, or you may not do any. So, and I did the application there, and within a week I had an admission, and it happened that 2 admissions, one from UFM and one from Lamar University. One was agricultural engineering, the other one was environmental engineering. Now, when I was doing a research in terms of the availability of jobs, I saw environmental engineering had more jobs, and I decided to make a decision, come down to Texas and took up environmental engineering, which took me 1.5 years, whereby it included thesis, and I graduated in 2010. And that's the time when the economy had collapsed in America, if you remember.
Oh yeah, that
Yeah,
was
after Obama got into power, remember how the economy was in a bad shape?
oh, it was bleeding.
Yeah, so there were no jobs anyway. So, but I could not get an engineering job. But the good lucky, I got a job with a state environmental agency called Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. That time they were exploring on oil and gas in an area here in Texas, and by doing so, they were polluting the environment, and the citizens could complain a lot. Okay. So now they were to hire so many investigators, and I happened to be lucky. I got to be hired as an investigator.
Okay.
In the area of air quality. So I worked there for 4 years, and while I was working, that's when I decided to formalize my professional engineer in this country, because from Kenya I was a registered engineer with the Engineers Board of Kenya. Now, here in America, most states which regulate engineering profession, they have requirements. So in Texas, I found they had this requirement that for you to be a professional engineer, you have to have an exam, or you have to have a certification called EIT, Engineering Training. The engineering training exam is a senior in university, in engineering school, can do that exam and pass. And the exam you do is called Fundamentals of Engineering. So where I was working in TCQ, the agency, I did that exam and passed. Now, for you to be a registered professional engineer, you would have to do another exam called professional engineer exam in your area of specialty. So now, but then before you do that exam, you have to practice engineering for 4 years.
Wow.
But then there is another requirement that, okay, like for me, this is a requirement which applied to me. Okay, number one, if you have practiced engineering abroad, which I did in Kenya, and you prove, you get a 1 year experience.
Okay.
You can imagine all those years I worked in Kenya, maybe they were 10.
Only 1 year.
They give you 1 year. Then if you have masters here in this country, they give you another year. So now I had 2 years experience. So now I had to look for another 2 years experience, which I did, and they did the exam. Both the fundamentals of engineering exam and the professional engineering exam is an 8-hour examination. You do 4 hours in the morning, 4 hours in the afternoon. And, that's engineering. So, of course, I did the exam and passed. Initially, I wanted to do the exam in Minnesota, but of course, Minnesota, they had easy requirement, like, if you practice engineering outside there or abroad, you only need the EIT to do the exam. So once I got the EIT, I wanted to do it in Minnesota. I guess I did it once, I failed. Now, by the time I want to do the next time, I could qualify for the exam in Texas, and that's how I came to do this Texas exam.
Okay.
Anyway, so I got a professional engineering license. Of course, the jobs were not there, and I'm an immigrant. I would do a few interviews here and there. And of course, there are certain things I didn't know about the interviews. And of course, one of the issues with the interviews maybe would be my accent. So they go up to the level of going to talk to the recruiting manager, and of course, they never called me back. So till a friend of mine told me one time, he said, you don't have to look for the really position you qualify. You can go for a technician position. After you know the people there, or they know you, they will give you a job. And that's what I did. I decided to go to apply. Okay, I was applying various jobs in various places. And one of the positions I applied was in the city, for the state where I was working. I got an engineering position, but it was in Austin. But this time, my wife got a nursing school admission in 2 hours away from home. And the Austin is 3 hours away from home. So you can see that difference. So I could not make it. So I decided to stick around and I applied for various positions, including technician position. And this is the one I got in the city of Fort Worth in a department of water planning and development.
A technician?
A technician, yeah. It's called engineering technician. And even, actually, they didn't even want to give me the job. But the person whom I was to take over the job from him so that he gets a promotion, he told those guys, I said, you engineers, this is your fellow engineer. He told he wants this job even if he's overqualified.
Yeah.
Anyway, they agreed to give me the job.
They didn't want to give you a job because you are overqualified.
Yes.
Wow. That's funny.
Anyway, so so they gave me a job. I worked there for 7 months. And then later on, I'm called for another interview in the city of Dallas to be an engineer assistant. Now, of course, I go for the interview, and the recruiting manager would ask, "Oh, you are an engineer. Why didn't you apply for engineering position?" I said I did, but they never called me for the interview. So anyway, he said, if we give you this job, after, of course, the interview, because you have a professional engineer license, we are going to promote you to be an engineer after the probation, which is 6 months. And of course, they did promote me after 6 months.
Okay.
So after 6 months, I become now an engineer, and I worked in this it's a division called engineering services. Basically, we do design for pipeline projects. So, but within that year, I had another person who told me, remember, you have experience even from Kenya, and they can accept that. You are experienced anyway. So what you can do, if you see a senior engineer position, just apply.
Okay.
And of course, I did that, and I applied within a year. I got these 2 positions to decide which one do I take.
Okay.
So I ended up taking the current position because I liked the recruiting manager. He also liked me, so I got that position of a senior engineer position in a division called Pipeline Project Management. That's in Dallas Water Utilities, which is managed by the city of Dallas.
Okay.
And that's where I am now. And it's a decent job, not necessarily about the money, but it's a job I like doing. As you can see, since I came from Kenya in 2007, it took me like more than 10 years to be in a position which I was in Kenya. If I was in Kenya by now, I should be maybe a director up there, or if I had somebody with political influence, probably I would be something else.
Okay.
But I'm happy that I'm able to practice engineering, which I was practicing before I came to Kenya. I mean, to the US.
Okay. Well,
Yes.
that's a very interesting. That's a lot of resiliency to wait for 10 years.
Yes.
And now, tell us your early life. You started from, how did you get to University of Nairobi? There is that life we wanted to know about. Where did you go to school and then you come to Nairobi?
Yeah, that's a very interesting life that you don't want to tell people sometimes. But sometimes can be inspiring.
Yeah.
I was born and brought up in a village called Gotinyango. You may be wondering what does Gotinyango mean, It sounds like a Luo name.
Yeah, it's a Luo name, actually.
Yeah, but at this village, there was this Luo guy who used to sit there doing butter trade. He will sell this salt, which is given to the cows. They call it Evara. So he used to come in that place. It's hilly. And later on, the people decided to call that place after his name. Hilly, the Luos called a hill.
God, yeah.
God. And of course, the guy was called Onyango, so they called God Nyango. Anyway, that's the village where I came from. It's very close to Karoka. It's a walking distance.
Okay.
The county is Kisii County, and the ward is called Nyamasibi. So I grew up in that village. I went to the primary school is called Watnyango. I went there for 8 years, from first grade to 8th grade.
Okay.
I did very well. The exam we did that time was called KCP, Kenya Certificate of Primary Examination. I did very well, and I was called to this school called Homa Bay High School. Unfortunately, I came from a very poor family. So my parents could not afford anything. I mean, like school fees for college. I mean, for high school.
Okay.
For such a high school. Now, anyway, if you grew up in Kisii, you realize, like, when you go to such schools, or when you come from a village like that,
it's very.
either you walk barefooted to school. Sometimes you have just one pair of shorts. One shirt. Yeah. So anyway, there is and there was a day school, high school near our place. It takes you 1 hour walking there and 1 hour coming back. The name is Nyantrago High School.
Okay.
It used to be they call it a Arambe school or a day school, but these days it's a provincial school. So my father went and talked to the principal in that school, and when the principal saw my grades, he saw a potential in me and said, "Bring that kid here. He can do well."
Okay.
So anyway, he allowed me to join the school. The parents struggled to get some money, but they were not paying a lot. So I went through that school for 4 years, and I did an exam called KCSE, Kenya Certificate of Secondary Examination.
Okay.
And that's where I get to go to the University of Nairobi. That time you could choose various courses. I wanted to be a medical doctor. That was my first choice. And my second choice was engineering. And I ended up in engineering, of course, like I told you earlier.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, you know, you have brought something very interesting. So you had to do. You went to a local primary school, which was a village school, and as you are talking, Gotinyango, it's a very familiar name. I think when I was in high school, there is an incident which occurred, and it was all over the news. I think there was like a lightning occurred in the school.
Yeah, that was 1982, I guess. I remember I was in 6th grade. There was this, it's a thunderstorm. And there was lightning there. We call it lightning. Of course, that thunderstorm, it's a very powerful, more or less like electricity, but very powerful. And I think human beings cannot manage it. So normally when there is a storm, that kind of energy will run through anything which is life.
Yeah.
So, and that's what happened in that school. And sadly, we lost 11 students.
Yeah.
Our children, the pupils in that primary school in 1992. It was very scary. And the culture in Kisii, sometimes they will talk a lot. They will say, oh, maybe there was some witch doctors or something which happened there. But really, scientifically, it is the storm which has that kind of more or less like electrical energy. Yeah, how you generate electricity. Yeah.
Now, I know you talked about your job where you are right now, and you recently graduated with your PhD. What can you say about your PhD, the one you graduated? What degree did you do?
Oh, okay. So like when I was working with the city of Dallas, or actually I'm working there. When I came from Kenya, I had this friend. He was working in the Egerton University. He was a professor, I guess, and they were saying, you know, when you go to the US, we don't want you to go there milking cows. I haven't seen where the cows are. Anyway, the cows are there. You go to the countryside, and you will find them there. So anyway, but the motivation was like, because you have a master's, when you go there, try to, do a PhD
Look
program.
for.
So anyway, this was in my mind, and I decided to take evening classes. I went to the University of Texas at Arlington and made an application for a civil engineering PhD program, and I got admitted there in 2018. I took some classes. Most of my classes were leaning towards construction. So I did a good number of coursework, and then I went to do a research or a dissertation on the area where I work currently.
Okay.
And my dissertation was on developing and comparing prediction models that can predict sanitary sewer pipes conditions.
Okay.
Yeah, most of these pipes for sewage, we call it wastewater.
Yeah.
They carry water, the wastewater from the kitchen, from the bathroom. All of that wastewater is carried to a place where it's going to be treated. It passes through those pipes.
Okay.
And for cities like Dallas, and I guess many other cities, most of these pipes are old. And they can fail anytime. So now for you to know which pipe to replace or rehabilitate, you have to know the condition of the pipe.
Okay.
And how do they know the condition of the pipe? You have to do CCTV of the pipes. There are companies which do that. But it costs a lot of money, and you can't CCTV all the pipes.
Okay.
So now I was trying to come up with a tool which can be utilized to predict or to to forecast what condition of the pipe. If I give you the type of the pipe material, the age, the length of the pipe, the slope of the pipe, all those variables or parameters. So you can predict this pipe is condition 1 or condition 2 or condition 3.
Okay.
Condition 5 normally is the worst condition of a pipe, which can fail anytime.
Okay.
So that's the kind of engineering I've done.
Oh, that is very good. Now,
yes.
What advice would you give to someone wanting to be an engineer like you, more especially immigrants, because your story looks like a really very inspiring story. What would you advise people, because many people want to do that and they come here and then they digress?
Yeah, the first thing you have to do what you like.
Okay.
So that's my advice. But when people come like this country, say you are an engineer like me in Kenya, the first when you come, it depends who is your host and who are your friends, and what responsibilities you have. Sometimes you have family responsibilities here and maybe back home there.
Okay.
So, but what I can advise people is like, truly, if you want to do what you like, you can make it. Okay. So, like I told you, I wanted to be a doctor. If I wanted to be a doctor, I would have made it by now. But then when I came, I figured it out that okay, I can go to medical school or follow through the process and become a medical doctor. But then I say that would take a long time and I have a family whom I'm supposed to take care of. So I had to stick with my course, which of course I like. So what I can advise people is like get focused, especially for the course or the career you like, and you can achieve it. For engineering, Of course, it requires you to be good in math and physics and chemistry, and of course English, because you have to read. You're using English to do all this kind of stuff. So it's sort of to be focused and be consistent.
With what
And
you
the most difficult thing is to start. The moment you start, when you started from a community college, and then actually that's the route I can advise people to take, even though I didn't take that because already I was going for a master's program. So even if you start from a community college, you would save your expenses by 50%. So start from a community college, do classes which are transferable to a university, and you will be there. All you need is be focused, be determined, and of course, be consistent.
Yeah, but then why you had a master's degree from Kenya?
Yes.
Why did you decide to take a master's degree instead of going straight to do a PhD program?
That's a very good question. Okay, this is what happened. When I was in Kenya, I mean, by the time I get a green card to come to the US, I had done a proposal. You know the process of we are doing a master's. You have to do a thesis. So the last thing you do before you correct the data is called defense of your research proposal at faculty level. There they have department and faculty and college level, but then it ends at faculty level. So I've done a defense of my research proposal, and I come to the US. And then, now I have come, I've not corrected data, I've not analyzed the data, and now you are coming into a new country. Okay. So now what I did, I like I told you earlier, I figured it like I need to go to a university here, translate my academic. Okay. One thing I didn't tell you earlier, and you have been in America for some time. When you come here, I don't know these days if they ask that. They say, do you have a high school diploma?
Yeah.
That's what they need for you to have a job. So I realized, okay, a high school diploma, but I have a degree. So what do I do? Then I say, let me translate my academic from Kenya to the US. So now in that process, I realized like this master's in Kenya is not going to help me at this point. That's why I went for another master's.
Okay.
Yeah, but then I will tell you, I was able to go there twice. Correct data, analyze data, and I graduated from the US earlier in 2010. Then I graduated in Egypt in 2012 because I never wanted to leave it unfinished. But that's how I ended up doing two degrees, masters. And one of the professors I went to see in Texas A&M, he reasoned like you. He said, when I look at the time, I was doing environmental engineering in this other university, but then I want to do PhD. He said, when I look at the time you spend in this field of irrigation and drainage or agricultural engineering and what you are doing now, if you had finished that Kenyan master's, you would have gone straight to PhD. So that one answers your question now.
Yeah, but you decided to change. That's it happens, and many people get themselves on that quagmire. Now, and there is one thing which was very interesting you talked about jobs that you had to take a job which was lower than what you wanted, and the kind of that resonated me back then. Also, I was applying for a computer job. I was a computer systems engineer, and then we could not get you the job. So I had to apply for a job as a technician too. But when I go in and even the director of IT, I was even more qualified than he was. So, but what can you advise people like the one who want the jobs which goes to with their position? What should they do?
Okay, I think maybe at this time the situation has improved.
Yeah,
I guess it has improved because maybe because I work for local government, and since the death of when the that guy was killed in Minnesota, George Floyd.
George Floyd.
Yeah, so now most people are very sensitive, and even before then, I guess I'm thinking like after now I left Minnesota, I started seeing the especially government. That's one thing I would like to share with you. The government, like they want to be fair. They want to have we call it minority women, like business equivalent. Like you are a businessman, so you are a minority. And then in workplaces, they want diversity. So right now maybe things have changed, but what I would say um, about going, you are qualified and you are going to go for a lower position. So first of all, you need to apply for what you qualify. Probably right now, like I've told you, since George Floyd, this time maybe if you have qualifications, you are likely to get a job. And of course, what most employers need are people who are qualified, and there are very few, especially in some of these areas. Yeah. So, but the route I was trying to take is sometimes some jobs are competitive, and you want to know people, they know you, and they will trust like you can do the job. So you kind of like you need to know somebody, like networking. Okay. So and like like the immigrants like us, maybe very many people. But somebody who was born like I look at the community where I am now, like DFW, Dallas, what was community.
Yeah.
So this person, his area is or he works in this place or that place. So you are likely to get connected, and you can go for an interview or something like that. Okay. So now for that, my case is like go for what's available, and then once you are there, you can get to be known or you can get to know people.
Okay.
And then, one thing somebody said one time is, it's not what you know that is important, it's who you know.
It is. So are you saying it is? You need to know some people. You need to network.
Yes, but I'm not saying that they are not going to favor you. You are not qualified. But if you know them and they know you and they know your qualifications, obviously they are going to give you a job.
Yeah. Are there another question I have to ask you? Are there any resources? I mean, or anyone on your way up from a village school to where you are, you would like to appreciate who helped you to be where you are?
I don't. Maybe there are many. There could be many. I might not remember all of them. Yeah. But I guess like when I was in the elementary school, the principal we had there, I understand he passed on recently. He was called Nyagisera. Yeah. When I was in 6th grade, he said, "You will go up to university, from my performance." And the high school I went, the principal, he also passed on a long time ago. And the people think like he's alive today because he helped so many people in that community because the school fees was low and very many people were able to be successful. So his name was Abed Maranga.
Oh yeah, that was a very common name.
Yeah, so he when he sees students, he will know this one is he likes academics, this one can do very well in sports, and he can help those students grow. So he kind of like motivated me, and he said, "You see, if you work hard and get to graduate, you can go far."
Okay.
So it was kind of motivational. But one other thing I will tell you is the issue to do with mentoring. That's what I think maybe you are referring to. You have got to have somebody ahead of you who has gone through your
process,
who has gone through your path to give you some difficulties they got, he can tell you how to go about them. But I mean, like here in the US, when you come, like I came to a community in Minnesota, and they say, "Oh, those engineering, you know, if you do engineering course, those are not for minorities." You see,
Yeah.
can be very discouraging. So sometimes you don't have to listen to people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was a fallacy that many people had. And now, what has been your biggest accomplishment in your career thus far that you can feel that you are satisfied with what you're doing?
Yeah. So I wouldn't say really big. I believe maybe I want to accomplish more. But one thing I would say I've accomplished, I've been able to become a senior engineer in a first world country, that's the US, and also attain a PhD, a Doctor of Philosophy in Civil Engineering. And of course, the job I do manage, design construction projects.
Okay.
And of course, with those design and construction projects, you work with so many people, consultants, contractors, and of course, citizens. So I would say it's an accomplishment. Like you are going to impact on people positively, technically, because like you can't get that water distributed to your homes or your businesses without the pipes, or you can't get wastewater from your homes go to get disposed in a safe way. So that's the accomplishment I would say that I would be happy about.
Good. Now,
Yeah.
what is any common myth about an immigrant like you attaining highest degree in civil engineering, which you want to debunk? Like it's like some myths people have. I know you are.
Okay. So anyway, so the myth is like I have said it earlier, whereby people say, "Oh, engineering is not for minorities," or it's for the majority. But that's a myth. And sometimes they can say maybe it's hard. That's also a myth, because if you are going to school, whether you are an adult like me or a young person, all you need is go to class, attend all classes, do all homework, assignments, do all quizzes if they are there. Obviously, you are going to pass, not unless you really don't want. So now like this one of saying it is not for minorities. People more or less like misuse it.
Okay.
I remember when I told you earlier, when I was taking that professional engineer exam in Minnesota, the first time I took it, and I met this guy. He told me, "You are not, even if you pass this exam, you are not going to get a job." Then he said, this was in the private sector. So he said, the best bet for you is the government. That's a bit true, but then I see so many minorities in private sector, in consulting, or in industry and the consulting firms. But in the government, obviously, you find it, tries to bring equality among all, from the federal government, local, state, and local.
Yeah, and well, this is a very inspiring story. What have you done now, having come from Gotinyango, the Nyantrogo High School? What contribution have you made to the people who made you? That I know they are proud of you. So, what contribution are you planning to do to the two institutions?
Actually, I would say I'm not planning, because I'm already there. My presence is there.
Okay.
If you went to Gotinyango Primary School, you would find recently, I can't remember, a few years, with a few friends, I was able to help them with a water tank. I told you the place is hilly, so getting water there would be a problem. So using water harvesting from the roof, I assisted them with a 10,000 liters water tank.
Okay.
So and then and also I help them with a printer. They print the exams they do within the school. They use that printer. Hopefully it's working. So last time I checked, it was working. I helped them with the printer. And then also there's this organization in Minnesota. They do books for Africa.
Yeah.
Mukida.
Yeah.
I also sponsor some books from Mukida.
Okay.
And every year I do recognize, with a smaller token, not really a lot of money, very little money, token awarding students who do well. Like this year, in that village, we had from the school actually, and maybe one student out of the village who scored 300 points. I gave them some token. Maybe they can buy a bag or a blanket or something or shoes. So I gave them award. So my presence is here, and I believe I will do more.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for coming for an interview. I hope many people will be inspired, more especially that you have remained determined and focused to come this far. And we do congratulate you, and I hope that you will continue to impact the community. So if you have your final remarks, what would you want to advise young people growing up?
Yeah, I would like to advise, thank you again for this opportunity. I would like to advise young people that everything is possible as long as they get focused. Any dream they have, they can achieve it. So as long as they are able to figure out what they really want, they study wherever they want to do, either go to school, and they follow through. Be focused. So I like this word focus. Like the people who target their enemies, called snipers, when they are waiting for the enemy, they have to be really focused. Even if there are ants there which are, causing harm, they don't even move. So getting focused and be consistent, be determined, work hard. So no shortcuts. Our young people today, and I believe even the country where we come from, they want shortcuts. They want to be quick. They want to be rich quickly.
Yeah.
Or they it has taken me 10 years to be in this level in the US.
Yeah.
So that's a long time. So they be patient. And of course, be humble. If you have been able to be successful like me, you want to be humble and support people who need help. One thing I didn't tell you, I do work as an international community projects reviewer. I review projects on water and sanitation, just volunteer for Engineers Without Borders.
Okay.
Yeah, so and then in my community here in Texas, we have this organization called TechScan, International Resources. We promote education.
Okay.
Recognize people who have graduated and give scholarships. Like this, we gave the most amount of scholarship amounting to 3,500. So I'm hoping we can raise more money in hundreds in the future. Okay. So all this needs to be focused, to be consistent, and to work hard. And of course, above all, believe in God. All these things we do by the grace of God.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Atambo, for your time. And we hope to invite you in the future when we have such a program. Thank you for honoring our invitation.
Thank you, Dr. Umandi, and your TV, KJ TV.
Yeah.
I appreciate you giving me this opportunity to share. I hope I inspired somebody, even if it is one soul, one person who can be better than me.
Thank you. Thank you very much.